All right, we're live and ready when you are, sir.
Okay, sounds good. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's a meeting of the Seldovia City Council, Monday, July 27th, 2026. Time is 5:05 p.m. This will be a work session. We've got one item on the docket tonight, and that is a 65% preliminary engineering report, otherwise known as a PER, of our water and sewer system. This will be an overview of where the team is at. We've got Village Safe Water and CRW Engineering here tonight to present.
Hi, this is Lori Hulse. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, we've got you loud and clear, Lori.
Oh, great. Let me see if I can share screens. Okay. Sharing this one. And all right, that looks like it's successful to share our PowerPoint presentation. Everybody can see that clearly?
Yep, looks good.
Yes, and this
Great.
is Michelle
Okay.
with Village Safe Water. If anyone was trying to talk to me earlier, my audio just started working for some reason, so I apologize
Yeah,
if I missed
likewise.
anything.
Okay. Um, Yeah, we at CRW have been working on a preliminary engineering report for water and sewer improvements in Seldovia. We've been working with Michelle Beadle at VSW and Anita Erickson at VSW. Anita is not available tonight, so Michelle's representing VSW. I have Andy Horstovsky here with CRW as well as myself. I'm Lori Hulse. We are both engineers with CRW working under contract to Village Safe Water. This preliminary engineering report is intended to be a planning document and for the city and VSW to seek funding for design and construction projects. Um, so this is the 65% presentation. Let's see, I'll go to the next slide. And we started this project in December with a kickoff and with the city and VSW and presented alternatives in March. And then this 65% PER document we submitted in June to the multi-agency review committee, which includes VSW and some other state agencies, as well as to the city of Seldovia. Heidi sent us review comments last week on this on the document, and tonight we are presenting the content of that document and to you to discuss the alternatives, the layouts, and concepts and answer questions that you might have. We expect multi-agency review comments anytime. They are pretty stacked up. They don't send their comments in a very timely manner, it seems. But we hope to get those in August in concurrence in the same timeline as when the city will be making selections for the projects that they would like to pursue. Next. I'll let Andy take over here and talk about the purpose of the project and then the suite of different components that are within the PER, including the dam, the water transmission line, the distribution mains, and the wastewater collection mains. So go ahead, Andy.
Thank you, Lori. Again, yep, my name is Andy Horsdowski, and I was out there in December, along with Mike Leganici, we were taking a look at these different items that are part of this preliminary engineering report. I was also out there in 2014 and 15, looking at some of the wastewater, some of the influent issues into the lagoon, and took a look at the dam out there and the septic system. So I've been over there a few times and looked at some of the, pretty familiar with the systems involved there, water and sewer. And of course, CRW was involved with the 2018 water treatment plant and water tank projects that occurred up there. Well, so this preliminary engineering report, it usually these PERs, they cover kind of one or two items. And this is unique in that Village Safe Water, let the city come up and just kind of put a whole list of issues that are persistent and that are that need to be addressed, and it kind of involves 10 different items from relating to the dam and some water mains and sewer mains. So it's a high level document looking at all of these different aspects, and the goal here is to establish a path forward for additional investigation and pursuing design funding to make some of these projects happen, and kind of prioritize this list of items, and come up with an idea of what needs to go first, and what are the city's priorities for getting these kinds of things fixed, so they can have confidence in the water and sewer systems that are serving the community. So things on this list that are covered in the PER are what we're calling the Seldovia Upper Dam. That structure was built in 1953 and 1954. Then along with that, what kind of spurred that conversation is those PSIs, the periodic safety inspections that occur at the dam. And some things were identified in the latest PSI that should be addressed with the dam. So those topics are covered. And then the water transmission line from the dam, it's kind of broken into two sections. There's the lower portion that I understand it has actually been replaced here in 2026. We're curious to hear from the city on how that project went, but we're looking, of course, then at the upper transmission dam. It's 43 upper transmission raw water transmission line. That 1,800-foot section is 43 years old, and it hasn't really been evaluated in those 43 years. And then there's water distribution mains that, along with some wastewater mains on Dock Street and Airport Avenue, both water and sewer for Vista Avenue. And just some backups and freezes and leaks that occur. Block streets, sounds like it's been an ongoing problem for a while with its shallow burial depth. And items that are not included in this per our water treatment and wastewater treatment and wastewater disposal. I know those are kind of undergoing other projects to do with a new lagoon or a discharge from that lagoon, and also a force main that would extend from Seldovia to that new lagoon. Those are topics covered under other documents that are in the works. I think right now this is a collaborative project, and we're absolutely looking for thoughts from the city. We want this document to serve as a launching platform for further investigation and design work, and you guys know what's causing you issues now, and what are your concerns. So, by all means, speak up if you've got any questions, or if we want to steer this thing in a in a path that is best for Seldovia and in the interest of what the city considers important. So please let us know. Any thoughts or concerns
Yeah,
you'd like to mention?
Anyone got any questions or comments yet?
I have a question. We're looking at the reservoir, and I thought that the problem on Block Street was just the line, the water line and sewer line wasn't buried deep enough. Is that what's going on with on Block Street itself? Or is that all tie in with everything in the reservoir? I mean, that's what he had mentioned was Block Street. That's why I was.
Oh, for sure. And we'll go into, so this preliminary engineering report, it really covers 10 completely, well, somewhat separate items. So the issues with Block Street are unrelated to the
Okay.
reservoir and the dam.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
I think what Lori's got pulled up on the screen here,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about the dam here first, and then we'll roll into the water distribution items, and then finally wastewater, which will include the Block Street discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Oh yeah, for sure. If you had any other questions, don't hold back. I mean, that again, this is we're at the beginning levels of planning these kinds of things, and input is appreciated. So the Seldovia Dam, man, I was up there in 2015. That's a pretty unique structure. It's been there since 1954. It's got a plaque on there that says so, and I think it's unique to Seldovia. It's a neat structure and pretty, well, obviously critical to your water infrastructure. It's the only source of water. The different items that we want to cover in this preliminary engineering report are the timber spillway, spalling that's going on the dam, which is places where the concrete is deteriorating. The liner that sits on the inside face of the dam. And then these items are all actually kind of what were brought up in the PSI, that periodic safety inspection that was conducted in 2025. There's some additional analysis that was suggested to be completed in that PSI as well. Let's take a look at that timber spillway. Reference my notes here too. Okay, so the PSI pointed out that the timber spillway, so the spillway is the mechanism that the dam is allowed to relieve excess water. That not all of the water captured in that drainage needs to go into it, be treated. Some of it spills over and it continues on into the slough. Well, the spillway, you can see one photo here provided from that PSI report. The timber spillway is what pushes that water away from if it were just to spill over the top of the dam, the water would start to erode the base of the dam and could lead to a structural failure. So the timber spillway is important. It kicks that water from the top of the dam away down into the stream bed, and it has some broken boards that eventually could lead to the failure of that spillway and erosion of the dam. So we don't want to see that happen, and there needs to be a plan put in place to take a look at this. Kind of big picture here, you're going to see that the way the PER is set up is we're encouraged at development of this to make alternative recommendations. And the alternative one is usually a replacement scenario where deficient components are replaced. Alternative two is a is a repair scenario where you would repair kind of, I don't want to say Band-Aid, but it's something, short of full-on replacement. It's where you would go through and just repair kind of the minimum you would to get the structure to continue to function normally, whether that be a sewer, a water main, or in this case, timber spillway. And then there's always the alternative of, well, what would happen if we do nothing? That's kind of how BSW structures these documents, and that's why it's set up in this way. Sometimes I would say an alternative is kind of obvious, like, okay, well, clearly we should not do nothing here. The plan is going to be to replace all of these broken boards. In this case, the alternative 2 is just to sister up to brace the structure, kind of stop the potential for imminent collapse. But this is critical infrastructure to the city of Seldovia. In my opinion, the obvious choice for the preferred alternative here, and the city here, it ultimately is going to help guide, what this preliminary engineering report recommends, which alternative, and then again to prioritize these as we move forward. But in my opinion, the alternative 1 is the obvious choice here. You need to replace those damaged boards, and again, this is just the first step. So the next step along the way is to pursue funding to do these kind of repairs, and that would include a full design, which would more thoroughly analyze the structure and recommend what exactly repairs would occur here. I don't think the entire spillway needs to be replaced. It's just the broken components to strengthen and get it to go for another 30 years.
Andy, I have a quick question. Jeremiah here. On the spillway, do we know? I assume that was built the same year as the dam. Do we know what the expected life of the wood structure was versus the actual concrete structure of the dam?
That's a great question, Jeremiah. And I think, Lori, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe in the 90s, they replaced the entire timber spillway. Is that your recollection, Lori?
I believe so, that that 1994 water source maintenance effort included replacing the spillway. It included a couple of other things that Andy's probably going to talk about on the next few slides. Yes.
Okay. All right.
So
No, sounds good.
it's 32 years old at this point, which it's a reasonable length of time for a wooden structure to hold up. But it's it's a harsh environment, and it's probably time to replace a few boards.
And that's actually a great point too. It's like we currently don't have a suggestion in here of an alternative that's just, hey, replace the entire structure, but it is going on 32 plus years old, and if we're going to do major dam renovations and repair as part of these other things we're about to talk about, maybe replacement is something that'll kind of extend the life of the structure so that doesn't have to be looked at again for another 35 years.
Yeah, I mean, if we had to do something, such as put a cofferdam to replace the liner or something, that would obviously be the time to do a major reno like that on the spillway too. So yeah, just that's a good point you make. That might just be worth, putting that alternative down, if it was deemed necessary, based on conjunction with the other work that needs to take place as well.
Yeah, great point. In fact, the PSI also suggested in one of those analyses that needs to occur is that nobody's really looked at, okay, what's the 100-year, this dam was built in 1954. Well, now, today, if we were to look at what is the 100-year maximum kind of flood event, like how much water would go over the spillway, is the current spillway adequate to survive, dealing with that 100-year, which would most likely be either a snow melt or heavy rain event, or a combination of both, probably. Because if the spillway becomes overwhelmed by water overtopping it, that means water is going to overtop the dam itself. And were that to happen for a number of days, it could start eroding the base of the dam. And if you've got the dam that's a situation where the dam's full, water is the hydraulic load that's on the dam, and it's overtopping and it's starting to erode the base, that could lead to failure. That's something that we definitely think should be looked at, just like the was suggested in the PSI.
Yeah, that would be a frightening scenario.
Exactly. And I think, go ahead, Lori, let's click the next slide. So I think looking back at so say 1954, the dam was completed. And in 1994, they went through and drained the entire, I think they built a coffer dam, and they completely overhauled the dam. They dealt with the concrete spalling, they rebuilt the spillway, and they relined the entire back of the dam with a new coating to protect the dam. And so from 1954 to 1994, that was 40 years. And this kind of environment, we would really expect that kind of work to need to occur every 20 to 40 years. So sure enough, at 40 years, they did a major renovation to this dam. And now it's been since 1994, it's been another 32 years. So I think I would say it's time to start planning for that. The planning and getting funding and design and gearing up to make these things happen takes a number of years, as you guys know. And so here at 32 years, I think it's time to start planning the next major renovation for the dam. We see in the PSI pointing out concrete spalling. That's where the concrete has started to deteriorate, from water getting in there and freezing, and then it cracks the concrete. If that concrete spalling is not addressed, eventually it gets deeper, water gets further into the dam, freezes, cracks more, and what you don't want to see is that get to a level where it's starting to interact with the reinforcement, because if the reinforcement gets wet, then the rebar will rust and cause further spalling and cracking, and it just become these superficial issues that we see here become major structural issues. So I think it's time to start planning for that next big renovation. And so with concrete spalling, we've got again the three alternatives. The alternative one kind of would involve draining down the whole dam and fully assessing all the spalling that's there, and chipping out all the loose stuff and repairing it to back to a new condition where it's protecting that core rebar and maintaining the integrity of the dam. Alternative two, the way we have it defined now, is more of a not draining down the whole dam, just assessing the visible portions of spalling and doing a more of a smaller scale repair effort. It would kind of be a band-aid on until something more major could be planned. But like I pointed out, these alternatives are necessary as part of this process, and I really think that alternative one's the right thing for Seldovia to pursue here. And of course, the do nothing alternative is this is an essential part of Seldovia's infrastructure. If you do nothing, eventually the dam will continue to deteriorate and potentially fail, which would put Seldovia out of water, and not to mention the downstream effects of all that water rushing down and probably wiping out buildings at the airport. Or it wouldn't be pretty. So the next component of the dam, the PSI also identified that the liner, they estimated that 30 to 50% of the liner that is visible at the surface has deteriorated. You can see that black liner you're seeing kind of bare concrete down there, and that leads to additional spalling and water being able to penetrate into the concrete. And that's the point of the liner, is to stop that. Sometimes we think of concrete as somewhat impermeable, but when it's constantly pushed against with water, water works its way in there and can, if it deteriorate the rebar, and that liner is important to protecting the integrity of the dam. We've got alternative one being, build a coffer dam, draw down the whole reservoir, and fully replace, deal with all the spalling and fully replace the liner. Alternative two is, hey, we see that most of the damage that we can see from the surface is, it would be to just drain down the dam a little ways and address the major damage of the liner up near the surface. But again, it feels like a Band-Aid kind of solution there. It's been 32 years since the last major renovation. Probably time to look at a full-on rehab. I don't think I need to cover the do nothing scenario here.
I'd like to jump in and add, there's some opportunities that present themselves when you do install a cofferdam and do a big drawdown. You get to inspect the reservoir itself. When they did that in 1994, they removed about 4,000 cubic yards of sediment from the basin, and reestablished the volume capacity of the reservoir. So if this liner on the back of the dam is replaced, it would require a cofferdam and a drawdown, which would be a good opportunity to also inspect your basin and to do another sediment removal process. That did occur in 1994. So it's probably time to do that again. That you can't see it until you've exposed it, unless I don't know if nobody's gone under the water there to look to see how much sediment is there or to quantify that at this point. Yeah.
Thanks, Larry. And I think, oh yeah, so the water transmission line, how did this lower, well, yeah, so we're kind of breaking this into two sections. The lower thin-walled steel section that was just replaced, 1,000 lineal feet of that, and then the upper section, which is 1,800 lineal feet of ductile iron installed in 1983. The design drawings reported that it was to have an 18 inches minimum cover over it. So I'm curious to hear from the city here, how did that replacement of the lower transmission line go?
Through the mayor, do you want me to respond now?
Yeah, you can just go real
Sure.
quick. Yeah.
Really well, super smooth. We noticed major improvements at our water treatment plant once the new line, well, actually when the bypass was on, and then of course continuing with the new line, less sediment going into the water treatment plant from the raw water. You could actually see where that thin-walled steel was corroding on the inside of the pipe from use, and just you could chunk it off with your finger, and where it was seeping into the ground. So it was overdue, and we're glad to have it done. When they connected to the upper 1,800 feet, I did get a report back that the condition of that pipe looked good so far. And there weren't a lot of concerns, but of course that's just the bottom portion of that 1,800. So overall, that gives us hope that the upper portion of the 1,800 is still in decent condition as well. And right now, like I said, water coming into the plant has been greatly improved. So we're thankful for the project.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. Thanks for that update, Heidi. I mean, with that, does the city have any suspicion from, with the work that was going on up there, that there is significant leaks or in the remaining 1,800 feet of transmission line? I mean, I just from what you've seen.
Through the mayor, not at this time, but it would be nice to complete that inspection in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think that like we've got highlighted yellow on this slide here, we're recommending that you you'd walk the alignment and look for any kind of signs of leaks or water coming out of the ground, and hand dig up a few places. Just take a look at those connections, find a joint, and just see what condition it can be assessed from there. And then if the dam is drained down with a coffer dam put in place, there would be an opportunity to camera from the dam. Because right now, how do we get inside this pressurized transmission line, to get an assessment of it? It's, first of all, it needs to be kept in place so that Seldovia has water. And there really just isn't a great access point to look at the internal condition of the pipe. But if a coffer dam was built and there was major dam maintenance going on, it would be a prime opportunity to send a camera down a portion or all of the remaining line and check out its condition from the inside with a camera. So if the city is amenable to that approach, we can kind of word the document to that effect.
That seems like a pretty reasonable approach.
Yeah, makes sense.
And okay, well, we'll do that. I think right now what the report talks about is, alternative one, which as always is a replacement thing. But if additional assessment kind of determines that it's in reasonable condition and still holding up, well, then using up that money to replace that line would probably be, it'd go against the books on another project that Seldovia could do that would probably be that could be more useful. So we'll word things like that to recommend an inspection, or external inspection to the extent possible, and then camera inspection when the dam is serviced.
Yeah, sounds like a plan, Andy.
Okay, sounds good. Lori, want to bring us to the next slide? So those were the major things covered in the dam here. Then we're going to talk about the water main deficiencies that the PER looks at, and then followed by the sewer main ones. So Dock Street.
Could I
Oh,
point
go ahead.
out, sorry, not to jump in the middle of your presentation, but I do want to point out to the council that picture you see on your screen is from last week.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, wow.
And I think that's a good point when it comes to near the end of this discussion. We're going to talk about kind of priorities and categorizing, what is important to the city of Seldovia, whether they be issues like the dam, where if nothing's done, then it's going to continue to deteriorate. So those are important because they're protecting, primary infrastructure. But then you've got deficiencies that cause the city continuous headaches, where, on an annual basis, you're digging up these things and unclogging lines. And it's just when it becomes such a maintenance hassle, that can cause it to become a bigger priority too. So the Dock Street, get my notes here. So the Dock Street water main is 8-inch ductile iron. The record drawings kind of indicate that I think it's burial depth. Well, you guys just looked at it. Sounds like the burial depth could be as low as 5 feet. We know that the fill material out there, there's a lot of blast rock and pit run. So it's easy for the frost to penetrate out there and get to that dead end. And it's a dead end water main. It just runs out and stops there near the dock. So kind of unsurprisingly, with the limited usage that the city shop and offices put on that water main, it freezes. Then Winifred Avenue, we've got a map here in a second. We'll kind of look at these a little bit more. I know you guys are familiar with your own town, but Winifred Avenue is a section where the water main has a bunch of different leaks that have been identified by the city and at multiple locations. So it's just been valved off. That didn't stop, and the problem with that is that, it creates 2 dead ends. Winifred Avenue water main, it ended up creating a loop. Yeah, thank you, Larry. So there's Dock Street down there in the bottom, of course. Well, up on the top left corner of the page, you've got the water main that goes up Shoreline Drive, and it's supposed to be connected to Anderson Way, but right now that's valved off on either end. That kind of where the number 4 is pointing, and that creates a dead end in the water main at Shoreline Drive right now, and it creates a dead end there at Anderson Way. And with the limited number of people on those dead ends, they can experience when the city does flushing of hydrants, sediment can get stirred up. And it's just better. It's more efficient. It's better to have loops in your water system. And this right now is creating 2 dead ends, and it's something that should be repaired. Let's see. Oh, and then Airport Avenue. That's a section of water main that it's the main water main coming into town from the water treatment plant. You can see it there in the top right corner of the page at where the 3 is indicated. And Airport Avenue, it's our understanding that the actual road of Airport Avenue was shifted some years ago into its actual right of way, while the water main remained in its original location. And some development up in that area has caused somebody made a driveway cut through there, and the water main is like a foot or less than 2 feet below the surface there, uninsulated. So it also crosses the sewer main, or it has separation issues with the sewer main that are in there, and the water main's not in its right of way. So obviously, this is the only water main serving all the rest of Seldovia. So were it to freeze and break, that's going to be an extensive emergency repair. So that's one of the things we're looking at, and the idea, of course, is to probably the best course of action is going to be we will cover that shortly, but is to relocate that water main into the right of way at a appropriate depth with required separations to sewer lines. And then finally, on the water main deficiencies, Vista Avenue, that's also on the books for the sewer main as well. So kind of Vista Avenue's got the water and sewer main issues. I think it's been, so right now they're in the center where 5 and the 6 point. Right now, the water and sewer extend I think it's 700 feet up Vista Avenue, and just terminate up on the hill there. You see, we've kind of got a show. We show the pink S snaking all the way down Vista Avenue and back down Vista Street. That's because one of the alternatives is to connect the water main, creating a loop all the way through there. Right now, it just extends up to the hill where residential development has kind of ended at this point. The street doesn't actually cut through there yet, but again, that's one that as on the city, like how valuable would that be to connect through, and we'll talk about that in a little more detail here in a minute. Oh, yeah, and the water. Yeah, thanks, Lori. So I'm absolutely curious to see what the city thinks should be done. I mean, what we looked at for the Dock Street water main would be to replace the alternative one is just replace that entire length of water main. It's only 315 lineal feet with Arctic pipe and heat trace it. Alternative 2 we've identified would be to just excavate the existing main and add rigid board insulation above it and probably on the sides of it to try to protect it there. What are the city's thoughts on that? I know you probably have probably thinking about it, considering you dug it up twice here recently.
Go ahead, Heidi. You guys have talked about it internally.
Well, through the mayor, so we are actually completing alternative 2 at the moment. That's part of that dig right there is we had a 90,000 gallon plus a day leak that's occurring. So that section of water is off right now. That main is off. And while the ferry is when it does its chain run, so we did a lot of work last week and now we have to wait till next month We are digging down the street, cutting up that asphalt, digging and insulating as we trace down the leak. We probably could do it a little bit more efficiently and start where we think the leak is, but with the knowledge that this is the third time that we've cut into this street in the last 4 months, maybe less. We're trying to insulate as we go, to help save us from doing this again in the future. Due to the fact that we're already working on that project, I did have Public Works approach me and ask if, as one of the alternatives, we could potentially slip line instead of replacing the whole pipe. It's 10-inch ductile iron at the end. We're assuming from like the far corner closest to the fuel station building, the end of the city office building, to the dock is 10-inch. Somewhere in there it stops, right? It's 10-inch somewhere through there. And we're also trying to locate our water service, which we don't have that mapped out as we go. But and then it does, we know, turn into 6-inch ductile iron towards the fuel station, and that goes all the way down to the main. And so the hope is that maybe because we don't need as much service and we are already insulating it, that we could potentially slip line with a 4-inch Arctic pipe. But I mean, I'm not an engineer, so I'd leave that to you experts. That's just what Public Works has recommended at this time. And also so we can stop digging up this road and just have to dig each end and slip line it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like I'd love to have a follow-up conversation with you. You guys have some solid employees that are working there, and maybe that would be a great one for us to have a follow-up conversation with, to just kind of we can refine between the 65% and the 95% to incorporate the city's request on that one.
Thank you. And the other thing I would like to point out about it, another contributing factor, is that Dock Street is actually a state right away. So they would also love it if, I'm sure they haven't expressed that, but I'm sure they would also love it if we stopped tearing up their right away.
Fair enough. And one thing that wasn't entirely clear to me, I understand that there used to be a means of transferring water from where the water main ended on to the ferry or other vessels that were docked there. Is that something that needs to be accommodated in this design, or is that a thing of the past?
Through the mayor, that should be accommodated. We do have a contract with Alaska Marine Highway System that they can take on water from our dock, and that goes from when they're in port. So from April to December, typically, they can take water anytime they port with us 3 times a week. And then I actually did have a commercial fishing captain reach out to me a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned that he would also like to be able to continue to take on water. And so I'm assuming with that there's a few more vessels and things that still would like to have access to that infrastructure and are currently using it.
So there is a current means to accommodate that.
Correct.
Okay, sounds good. I think we can. That's great information. We'll work to incorporate that into our preliminary engineering report. That's kind of not covered right now, so we'll get that in there. All right. Any other comments on the Dock Street water main?
No, I think we're good on that one.
Okay. And just let me know if you want me to speed this thing up, or I'm trying to be thorough and make sure we get the information to the city that we're trying to convey in this report. Like I said, there's like 10 different things here, and we're moving our way through. But normally these PERs have like 2 things, so this is there's kind of a lot going on here. Just let me know.
Yeah, the only unfortunate thing, we probably should have allotted ourselves a little more time for this. We've got a regular council meeting here in about, in 5 minutes. We can go a little long here, obviously, but yeah, maybe just will give us the highlights here. We got a pretty good idea of where you're going here, and then yeah, that'll obviously give us something to digest and talk about as a council, and then obviously get some additional comments back to you guys. Obviously, which you're going to probably need in short order, or wait till after the other agency reviews come in before you go to 95. So.
That sounds great. I'll speed things up here. So I think Airport Avenue water main, it's kind of an obvious choice. The water main is too shallow. It's not in the right of way, and it has conflicts with the sewer. So it needs to be moved. Repairing it, putting insulation over it, that's a Band-Aid that may not even solve the problem. So I think the choice is clear there. The Winifred Avenue water main, again, I think this is a pretty clear choice. Right now the loop is not completed. And I think that the right thing, probably the best, that is a gravel road over there, and there's not a lot of services. I would think just getting in, and reportedly, there's multiple holes in that line. I would think the right option there is to replace that main, rather than to try to do some kind of cast in place liner. It's pretty easily accessible in the road. It's got a lot. Yeah, that's what I would suggest. To go with the replace, get that line reconnected, so that some water quality issues will be addressed with that. And that's where we're going. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think from my standpoint, I mean, I'm an advocate that's how we got in this whole situation to begin with, is deferred maintenance, right? I mean, all these Band-Aids over the years. I mean, every small community in Alaska faces financial challenges, obviously. So, yeah, we've been super fortunate with, obviously the help of CRW, VSW, all agencies are super supportive. We seem to do okay over here, and we advocate for ourselves. And yeah, we want to get the stuff fixed right, and we don't want to leave this problem on to the next generation. I mean, we want to do what's right here and get these things done, and get the long life out of them. So.
Okay, and then sounds good. I like it. The Vista Avenue water main, it's a 6-inch ductile iron water main. It's corroded. It's had numerous leaks, including one that the city just repaired here recently. You really want to have an 8-inch water main in order to supply adequate pressure and water to fire hydrants. It crosses the sewer line in 2 different places, so it's yet another one that's. I think the obvious solution is to replace that water main with the current, with an 8-inch main, and get rid of that leaky mess that's there.
No objections here.
All right.
I did, when the comments I sent back, I did note that it was recommended to replace that pipe with ductile iron, and I was curious. And we don't need to discuss that now, but you'll see in my comments that I was wondering why ductile iron versus HDPE. And like I said, we could talk about that later, but just because I know that's such a corrosive area up there, so definitely something to consider.
No, that's a great point, and we can. I think HDPE could be a good option there too. We can discuss the pros and cons of that when we got more time.
Thank you.
So Vista Avenue, again, it's on this. This is the sewer main deficiencies. It's got. Even when we were up there in December, which was when you'd expect the least I&I, we saw clear water flowing down. The city's had a history of seeing infiltration in this area. I think in the summer you would see a lot more. It would make sense if you're going to do a project that you would, if you're going to do water main, Vista needs water main dealt with. You would tackle the sewer at the same time and fix those water and sewer main crossings. Deal with the I&I by replacing the main and realigning the water and sewer on Vista. I think maybe the biggest question the city should look at here is, Vista Avenue water and sewer ends up near the top of the hill. if development were to continue occurring and the city wanted to serve those lots, you could continue on Vista Avenue and serve those remaining lots that are currently undeveloped and reconnect over on what's the name of that street over there, Lori? Flip to the next slide there. Oh yeah, where item 5 points where Vista Avenue comes down to Winifred. For the city's consideration there on whether maybe that's I guess that's more of a new project, an extension that rather than a repair and a solution. Okay. So Block Street. Right now, Block Street has a sewer main and manholes that have like 2 feet of cover on portions of it. We believe it goes through a wetland area, the manholes heaving and twisting sideways. The city deals with blockages there. We think the best solution, in fact, CRW designed a preliminary design we provided to extend the Block Street sewer, which you see in orange there up at the top of the page. Right now, the sewer line goes from Shoreline Drive, that whole portion of Shoreline Drive drains down Block Street. Then it goes down Spillum Street and then down Young Street where it ties into Anderson Way, where really ideally Block Street would just go boom straight on through and have a new manhole at Anderson Way and not do that zigzag down Spillum Street. That replacement would allow the main to be realigned, buried and protected. Like some other work that's been done, we've done in Seldovia, it goes across kind of a wetland area there. It would need to be probably supported on piles. So it is expensive, but expensive work, but the cities deals with issues there frequently, and it a 2-foot burial depth of sewer is just not gonna pretty hard to put a Band-Aid on that one. Inlet Street, that is just a short section of sewer main that from what we talked about with the city, it sounds like there may just be a service line that has a problem over there. At the end of Inlet Street, down there in the bottom left corner, there's a clean out. We tried to find that while we were down there, and everything was frozen. The ground was frozen, and the city and CRW were unable to locate that. I think, to me, the next step is to find that clean out and jet that line. And again, it seemed like from what we were talking about with the city, there was really just the one person at the very end of Inlet Street was experiencing service issues, or potentially just a service issue rather than an actual problem with the main in Inlet Street. So accessing that.
There,
Go ahead.
and if you don't mind me filling in, yeah, we have looked at that infrastructure. We do try to have it on a regular maintenance schedule for jetting, because it goes back through several internal reports that there's a thought that it'd be an inverted siphon there of there's a belly happening in that main, and it is impacting multiple customers on that end.
Okay. And we did see a report back as far as like 2003 from another engineering entity that they thought that there was a belly and a insufficient slope on that line. So I think that's one of those ones we can word it in the report here that might recommend just a little bit more investigation before a plan was put into place to just fully replace that section. Main Street. So the Main Street sewer collects 98% of all of the wastewater in Seldovia ends up flowing down Main Street. It's got Harborview Drive and Seldovia Street and English Drive all tie into it, including the entire slough that comes into it from the lift station 1 at the end there. When we were down there, we wanted to go run all the way down Main Street and pop all the manholes and kind of look at increasing flows as we step down there and just kind of gauge some of the infiltration that might be occurring. But a lot of the manholes were inaccessible from damage due to snow plowing. The snow plowing beat up the rims of the manholes where the manhole covers aren't removable. I mean, replacing the Main Street sewer is obviously a massive undertaking. It has dozens of services and all of these side streets that come into it. So I think moving forward, an investigation of the condition of that sewer through Cameroon, and also evaluation of I&I during the summer months when I&I is actually more prevalent, is additional study needs to be done on Main Street before you can really just say like, oh yeah, we should replace this. So I think that's where we stand on the Main Street sewer, and we're happy to take a look at what we've got worded in the report now, and I think that I think that's the clear course of action that needs to happen now. Further, specific investigation into I&I and condition of the Main Street sewer main needs to occur before a solid recommendation on replacement or lining it can be made.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's our only option. I mean, given that that's all state of Alaska DOT road there too, they're going to be a major player in that one, because they're pretty much, that's going to be an entire street tore up the entire length of the town.
Yep. Okay, Lori, next page. I think Vista, we already covered the sewer when we were talking about the water, replacement. So this is kind of where the report goes from here. I think the city can play a big part in this, and it's just kind of a priority list, like looking at what all of these different components, the dam, the spillway, all of the different elements that you see on the right there. What are the city's priority, and kind of grouping those into. It maybe at first it would just be an itemized list that's from 1 to 10 of what the city finds the most important. But then ultimately they need to be things that would be grouped together, like obviously if you're going to do the dam liner and the spillway, you would just bundle that into a project, a contractor, in order for a contractor to mobilize and get all the stuff together. It makes sense to book these projects to get together into manageable chunks that can also we can also use to kind of seek the funding that's needed to do these projects. It's into bite-sized pieces that are accomplishable through pursuing grant funding through various means, including VSW and others, is to break these projects down into priority, but also like components, like Vista, Vista water and sewer, that could be grouped together, and then we kind of see where that falls on the city's priority list, and that's what we want to do as we move this to 95%, is do a good job about helping the city find a path forward on what's the most important thing that we should go after next, and what things go together with it.
So what is our timeline here for getting, so you've submitted your initial comments back to these guys?
Correct, Mr. Mayor, but it was more detail oriented, not priority wise. So
Right.
if you guys want to have another work session to discuss priorities, we could do that. Depending on what your timeline is, Andy and Lori and Michelle.
I would think that and Lori, feel free to weigh in. Yeah, we'd love to see the multi-agency review comments. And of course, the city will get those at the same time we do. Maybe we digest those for a week or so, and then kind of meet. I'd be happy to meet back with the city again and discuss. Start making a priority list of how this would be broken down. I think that would work good.
Yeah, I think go ahead.
I think our contract with Village Safe Water has us finishing this project in December. So the dates on this slide that show us completing the 95% PER in October would meet that target of completion in December, given another multi-agency review in that interim. So I think that if the city could digest this information, come up with some priority projects from these options in the next month or so. And Andy or I can be available to help with some of the specifics of that, or if you have questions, you could compile a list and we could get some answers to you back in pretty short order. Then we could uh, get those comments from the multi-agency review committee and then have some back and forth with Heidi, probably as a point of contact with the city, and then get you a 95% PER to look at in October. Is that does that sound reasonable to folks at VSW, Michelle and Andy?
Yeah, it sounds pretty good. I mean, there are a few unknowns. Definitely takes about 8 weeks for each round of multi-agency review committee comments, period. And I believe this is a USDA RRD funded grant paying for this contract. So, I mean, we do want to do our best to meet that December deadline. We don't have a guarantee that those grants are extendable. Sometimes they'll grant us an extension, but it's not something we can count on. So I would keep that in mind. We certainly wouldn't want to not finish a project due to a grant lapse. But yeah, we definitely, city feedback is very important. And as Andy was touching on, prioritizing which projects would be huge right now. Getting funding through the federal agencies, everything's really tight with the way the budgets have been with the current administration. So the higher priority, smaller chunks that we can break this down into, the better chance of getting that funding for the next round. So yeah, I think it's a good plan.
All
Yeah,
right.
I think from the city standpoint too, from myself on the council, I think this seems pretty reasonable and pretty clear path forward. It'll give us an opportunity here between now and August, which is coming up quick, to have another session, have the administration work through their priorities, get with council, get council buy-in, feedback, and then and then Heidi can take the point and keep working with you guys to move this thing along. And then obviously we'll go to 95% and then final completion in December.
Okay, well, thank you for your patience as we slog through this list of 10 projects. And Andy, thanks for your detailed explanation on all of them. I think that was really helpful. We don't want to take up too much extra of your time, so let you get on to the rest of your council meeting. Thank you for having us tonight. We appreciate it, and we're available via email through Heidi. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your summer, folks.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Lori. Yeah. Appreciate it, Andy, and the rest of you guys. Lots of information. So we'll start digesting here and then keep moving the ball forward here. So.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Super.
Yep,
Thank
Thanks,
you
you
all.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
Bye.
Yep. Have a good evening. All right, real quick while we are rolling here, do we have anyone from the public that's got any additional comments or questions for on this subject tonight? No hands, Liz? Okay. All right, any other final comments from council before we adjourn and get going on to our regular meeting?
I
Yep, for sure.
think when we get down to the numbers, I did have a question. I didn't want to hold them up, but I did have a question about the liner.
On the dam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, they were saying that this new liner doesn't always hold to cement, and then what that is cement on the dam.
Yeah, the dam's
So
made
they're
of cement.
using like an epoxy kind of.
Yeah, and I think that was only in the top 3 feet though. I mean, that's definitely only a short-term temporary fix in my mind. I think if they're gonna do it, they need to do the whole thing and go all in. And then that gives us the opportunity to take care of the spillway. I mean, all these in one deal. Yep, good. Yep, just keep that on. So, yeah, I mean, obviously we're at the with the amount of time that's elapsed since, the first from 54 to 94 and then 94 to now, timing is just about perfect on all of this we need to start now because it might take us 3, 4, 5, 6 years to get funding and get these projects going. So,
Yeah, it doesn't happen quickly.
Yep.
And additional, water capacity, if you're removing all the addition, like sediment, meeting that's in there, but happening at the same time.
Yeah, everything needs inspection. So, yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm hoping that upper part of that line is fine. Yeah, but they can put the camera down when they do that. I think that's great. Right?
Yep. All right. Well, we will, thanks everyone. We'll go ahead and adjourn from the work session. Are we gonna stay on this link right here?
Yes, we can stay on the same link.
Okay. Yep. Sounds good. All right. So, we go ahead and adjourn from the work session, and then we're gonna just go right into our, regular council meeting here. Give us just a moment here. Let me get my other documents up.